Sup, homies? My name's Mike Ass, and Google search sucks. Now, we all know this, but one person went ahead and did something about it, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, we've got this idea that came on my radar called Google Zero. It's the idea that Google will, in short order, stop sending meaningful traffic to outside websites, instead keep users inside its own ecosystem by directly answering queries or promoting its own properties. So you guys all know what this looks like, right? You make a Google search, and instead of getting websites that could respond to that search, instead you get an AI-generated blurb and then maybe some sponsored links. Not a new phenomenon. We've been covering, for example, on my Twitch stream, this idea that Google search has been nerfed for a long time, but actually something that's come to my attention today because a guy named Wilson Lin, he did something about it. So he noticed what we all noticed, but went ahead and created a web search from scratch. So I don't want to go into too much depth about Wilson's efforts because they are pretty complicated, but I'll link everything that he provided in the description for this video. I'll just say a couple things. Now, when building out this new search engine, there is a huge problem or a huge question of infrastructure. And so he spent a lot of effort, just some high order points. He deployed 200 GPUs that generated 3 billion neural embeddings. And then his web crawlers processed about 50,000 web pages per second, eventually indexing over 280 million pages across this custom infrastructure. So that was kind of like one bucket of his solution was, how do I get all these web pages in? And then a later question of embedding. He pointed out like two of the key ideas that he learned about search engine quality is kind of a reverse of maybe a common idiom, which is that quantity is quality. If a search engine can't find something, it's not useful, right? That is ultimately the goal of a search engine is to, first of all, match the request or the prompt to a good answer, but also perhaps to show the user something that he didn't know or wouldn't be able to find otherwise. Another larger point he points out here is crawling and filtering is the most difficult and most important aspect. And that's where a lot of the points I mentioned a second ago about the infrastructure and the embeddings come into play. Another point that kind of stood out to me was this idea of semantic context. Real quick, when working with large language models, you're limited by context. That's how much does the large language model have in order to make its prediction. That's kind of in short what the context is. And so he writes in this write-up a little bit about how he approached the context problem. So I think that's totally worth a read. Here's a live demo of what it looks like in action. So you can see in his search engine, he just does a query here, Docker Explorers port, and you can see what the result looks like. Now let's do the same query in Google Chrome. And of course, out of the gate, you're gonna get that AI overview, which is this idea of Google Zero, where Google generates its own content instead of giving you the documentation that you desire. Other points about the project that I'll just mention here in passing, it is kind of a deterrent to anybody pursuing anything involving models or AI engineering at scale is the cost. So he does a great job in this write-up about showing how he optimized the cost. Because remember, this infrastructure to process all these web pages and then also to embed them, it will be substantial. On that note, I do have, I believe, the model that he used when he was doing the embeddings. So you can find it here on Hugging Face. I'll also put this in the in the YouTube description. So here's the idea. When he was getting the web pages, when he was compiling them, he needs to embed them for later retrieval. And this is the model that he likely used to embed those web pages. Well, that's about it. So I hope you guys found this project interesting. I'll put all the links in the description. If you are interested in computer science, AI engineering, fundraising, any of the modern topics, give me a follow on Twitch. And outside of that, homies, peace.